Look, man, I'm not gonna try and pretend that I'm not biased. The truth is, Hunter x Hunter affected me very profoundly during a time in my life when I really needed it to. And as a result, my ability to objectively critique this anime is, well, let's just say it's compromised in the same way that Hisoka's underpants are when he sees a particularly powerful adversary. You see, without getting too far into it, I watched the entirety of this show's 6 seasons while I was completely isolated. Miles away from the nearest city, living on a farm with no one but my dog to keep me company. Telephone service was terrible, and Wi-Fi was only strong enough to carefully buffer an episode or two while I worked outside tending to the crops from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Once I finished my work, I would, on weary bones and freshly blistered feet, amble my way up the steps to the RV I was living in at the time. I'd throw a Hot Pocket in the microwave, or maybe make a pot of rice and beans if I had the energy that night. And with my meager but heinously appreciated comforts, I'd roll into a ball of covers, call for my pup to come join me, and I'd begin watching Hunter x Hunter. Even though I probably hadn't said a single word to another living human that day, even though I was thousands of miles away from my closest living relative or friend, and even though I was completely isolated with no easy access even to the nearby town of only 60 people, I felt not alone. I felt adventure and all the bliss and anxiety that comes from it. I felt freedom, even within the aluminum walls of a false home. I felt the love and richness of a friendship that I wasn't even a part of. I felt all of the things that make Hunter x Hunter so damn good. You see, Hunter x Hunter is less a show to me and more a living, breathing entity with all the beauty and complexity afforded to a story. Like a person or group of people I got to know without ever actually meeting. Or like a relationship that I was able to savor and reap the emotional rewards for without ever actually being a part of. I vicariously reaped these benefits simply by watching the story progress, by watching the characters grow close and become intimate friends and battle-hardened adventurers. I felt my world grow as I watched the realm of Hunter x Hunter expand and introduce brand new concepts, foes, and adventures. I teared up and felt pure gratitude as the friendships I'd seen develop were tested and found truer than ever. I felt every single episode, every time that outrageously hype ending played, every time I saw that consistent and simply phenomenal OP, I felt. And that is essentially Hunter x Hunter's bread and butter. It's a story that makes you feel, but arguably more importantly, it's a story that makes you feel good. This isn't to say there isn't tragedy, sadness, and serious conflict. Just rather that, as I look back at this series and its legacy, I see a show that consistently left me feeling good inside. Hopeful, like I could take on the world outside of my four walls, like I could raise my chest, shout "Os!" and know deep down inside that I could handle anything life threw at me. This story just does that good of a job at establishing its cast and tying them together through beautifully animated scenes and heartfelt dialogue. That being said, Hunter x Hunter isn't exactly what I would call a feel-good anime, at least not in the traditional sense. Instead, it's an emotionally charged narrative with wholesome and heartwarming themes that are given plenty of room to grow through the trials and events that the cast is put through. These moments leave us feeling so good inside because of the thematic symmetry that touches through each of the characters and their actions. There are so many examples of this throughout Hunter x Hunter, but for the sake of time, let's just take a look at the show's second arc to get a clear-cut example of this. In this arc of the show, Gon, Kurupika, and Leorio are dead set on finding Killua and rescuing him, after he was all but forcibly taken from the Hunter exams during a particularly tense moment of familial drama. Killua is being tortured by his family, as his 3 best friends begin an adventure to go save him. They quickly realize, however, that saving Killua isn't going to be as easy as walking up to his front door and asking him to come out and play. Instead, they're gonna have to pass through some incredibly dangerous territory and fulfill several challenges along the way. So the scene is set, our heroes have a firm motivation to act, and then blam, the first obstacle is set before them. It is quite literally a testing gate, a door that weighs 2 tons. Turns out the door to the Zoldyck Mountain estate is actually never locked because they aren't really worried about people coming to try to kill them. This is on account of the giant demonic dog, Mike, or Mikke if you will, who kills anyone who enters the premises without first entering through said testing gate. I guess they also aren't really sweating intruders on the premises because the whole family is trained to kill just about anything and anyone, but I digress. We watch our heroes dig deep and reaffirm their motivations, only to have it questioned and ridiculed by the family butler. It's then that they bear all their strength and they fail. As a result, they have to train and train until the 3 of them together can open the door and truly begin their journey to save their friend. This moment always felt like such a huge victory, enthralling me as a member of the audience, and that's saying something because when was the last time watching someone try and open a goddamn door was interesting, much less this emotionally compelling? And yet, here I am, screaming affirmations at the screen over just that. 3 teenagers opening a door. Hunter x Hunter accomplishes this in part because of the first arc of the show. The Hunter exam was perfect. It's an exam that is meant to test a person in eccentric and indirect ways, opening the story up to inventive solutions and odd situations that could have only been facilitated in an assessment such as this. Our heroes were put to the test, physically, mentally, and morally, and as a result, by the end, we feel like we really got to know them. Their bond was shown to us, forged in the fires of their shared experiences. This event, this door opening, sought to test that newly founded bond. This arc is all about friendship, and the lengths true friends are willing to go through to help a fellow in need. Hence, putting a challenge in the character's way that quite literally forces them to train together and ultimately work together to accomplish an objective. It rhymes well and ties into the theme while giving us a chance to see these 3 characters' relationship develop, all while they work to save their mutual friend. As a result, when the 3 of them finally manage to push that door open, the audience gets hit with this rush of euphoria. The soundtrack swells, our heroes cheer, having grown even closer under the strains of pressure and a great obstacle. There's catharsis here. Even though it's only the first challenge and they just barely managed to get past it, we get the sense that maybe they can save their friend. The reason I picked this event in particular out of all of the feel-good moments in this show is because of its mundane nature. Like I said before, this segment of the story is about opening a goddamn door. That's it. And this ain't no magic door, it doesn't have a key, it doesn't even have a riddle they need to solve to get past it. They just have to push it open. In fact, if you haven't seen this show and you're just listening to me explain it to you, it's probably not going to sound all that special to you. The premise is not very exciting, but the execution is absolutely brilliant. Because of how famous this show is and how flashy the story gets in the future, I think little moments like this get glossed over, and that's a shame to me, because they really do emphasize the best aspects of this narrative, on account of their simplicity. When goals are this basic, it falls to the characters and the world itself to make it interesting for the audience. Obviously, we know these characters are phenomenal. Gon and company all embody those fundamental character traits I talked about in my Demon Slayer video. They are dynamic characters whose existence in the story fuels plot development and character growth in those around them. Kurupika and Leorio probably wouldn't even be here if not for their love of Gon. However, through their mutual friendship, they manage to form a genuine bond with Killua. And in turn, Killua learns how to be a kid, how to have mercy and gratitude beyond what he's ever known. These characters are fun to watch, even when all they have to do is open a door. Then there's the world building that is established in this portion of the story, which fuels the audience with engagement through the subconscious questions laid out by the author. For one, this old-ass janitor uses Nen, foreshadowing something that will become a huge part of the story later on. For now, we don't really get answers. All we're left with is questions. What was that? Was it magic? Technology? Is he a hunter? Or something more? The audience just had to keep watching to find out. Additionally, we get Mike, who is nothing short of a macabre monster from your worst nightmares. Good to know this story can suddenly become terrifying if it wants to, and oh boy, does it in the future. If you can see what I'm getting at here, it's quite simple really. Hunter x Hunter is able to make the ordinary extraordinary by tying in all of its lore, world building, and thematic power to its incredibly compelling and fleshed out characters. And it does this consistently, while still managing to subvert expectations and deliver heartfelt beauty seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, hell, let's just take a look at the end of this arc. Gon, Leorio, and Kurupika are still working hard to try and save Killua, engaged in their own compelling and attention-grabbing adventure. Meanwhile, we see Killua's perspective. See, Killua didn't just run away from home. He also stabbed his own mother and brother when they tried to stop him. So when he comes back home, they do the only rational thing they can and demand he apologize under the threat of extensive torture. It's funny, in a dark way, and totally fits Killua's stab first and ask questions later kind of personality. But there's more to this side of the story. The subtext of this whole conversation is the real narrative juice to Killua's side in this whole arc. His family is torturing him, saying they want an apology when what they really want is for Kill to capitulate and accept his lot in life. Apologize for leaving in search of adventure, excitement, and friendship. Haven't you learned the error of your ways? You're an assassin, just like us. Just accept it already. Killua, however, remains indignant. He's not sorry, so he doesn't see fit to apologize, withstanding the torture and making a mockery of the whole ordeal by turning it into a multi-day troll on his older brother. It is only when he hears that his friends have arrived at the testing gate that he begins to act serious. He is renewed with a sense of hope and readily believes that Gon will come for him. Again, the subtext shows us how Killua believes that he did make the right choice. His friend will come to see him. His way of living, his dreams of adventure are inevitable. He has already made friends willing to die for him, and that alone proves that there's more to life than what has already been forced upon him by his family. Later on, Grandfather Zeno arrives to see Kill, instructing his older brother to set him free, at which point Killua breaks the chains off himself and reminds his older brother that he isn't sorry, but that he does feel sorry for stabbing him. Zeno tells him that before he goes anywhere, his father Silva would like to speak with him. The subtext here shows us that Kill isn't sorry for doing what he needed to be free. He isn't sorry for seeking out more in life or wanting friends, but he does admit that he feels remorse at causing his family pain in the pursuit of such a life, whether it's a doting mother or a bratty older brother. Look, I don't want to get all 8th grade English teacher on you. Killua is teasing his brother here, that much is for sure. However, it's interesting to see Killua express remorse when thus far we haven't seen an inkling of such behavior in him. Perhaps his time with Gon has already had a profound impact on him. From here, we are taken to Silva Zoldic's chambers, a morbid room styled after the works of H.R. Geiger, painted with the agonizing faces of his slain foes and guarded by a muzzled monster. Silva Zoldyck faces his tortured son and begins to speak, but what exactly is it that they discuss? Well, contrary to everything his family has attempted to force him to understand up to this point, Silva Zoldyck completely subverts all expectations and takes this moment to genuinely bond with his son for what might have been the first time in either of their lives. Silva understands that while he himself and the rest of his family were raised from birth to be assassins, that Killua is different, with budding desires and a profound appreciation for his newfound friends. He sees his son's desire for friendship and adventure, and rather than trying to beat it out of him, he accepts it. Not only that, he wants to hear about Kill's adventures during the Hunter exam, and genuinely gives Kill an ear to hear him out, with a genuine sense of curiosity that cares about what he has to say. They talk and bond until Silva ultimately accepts his son's desire to see the world and have friends. Silva then tells his son that he understands him, that he accepts him, and humbly reminds him that if he ever gets tired, he remember that he will always have a home to return to, a bed and a pillow to lay his head on. This sudden development more likely than not caught the audience completely by surprise. Hell, even Killua himself is shocked into a childlike state of awe at not only his father's imposing stature, but also his sudden and passionate desire to bond with his son. all that tension was subverted and converted into yet another feel-good moment of purely amazing and wholesome emotions, as we get to see the normally standoffish and cocky Killua be humbled and loved by his father. Then, as if that subversion wasn't enough, Killua's father straight up tells him that he's allowed to leave, and rather than Gon busting into the place and freeing him, he's just allowed to walk out. This is not at all how I ever imagined this arc concluding, and yet it's just so satisfying to behold because it makes complete sense given what we just saw. In a way, I guess all they had to do was walk up to Killua's house and ask if he could come out to play. It's moments like this that gave me a profound sense of emotional gratification and subversive glee. I felt like a kid watching the greatest show ever made, and yet I was a grown adult working from 5 to 5 and eating whatever scraps I could throw together. The dialogue, the subtext, the characters and their varied personalities. When a goal is this simple, you have to make the story shine in other ways. Sometimes there isn't any flashy fight scene or a dynamic moment of action. Sometimes it's just characters trying to open a heavy door. Sometimes it's just a father talking to his son. But those moments need to shine too. And in Hunter x Hunter, they sure as hell do. Okay, shit, why did I just turn into Dr. Seuss? Look, the point is, even the smallest moments of this story, at least in respect to the series at large, have heartfelt developments that leave the audience feeling charmed under a state of narrative bliss. So yeah, the dialogue and characters themselves are fantastic, and the little moments of character drama and subtext are just a delight to behold. But that is not to fool you into thinking this show isn't what it plainly sets out to be: a shonen battle anime. This is probably as good a spot as any to mention that my brother and I write comics, graphic novels, and manga ourselves. We've written a bunch of stories, and most are free to read on our website, thenightlibrary.net. We actually just released a new manga series called Sword Story that is one of my personal passion projects. It's about adventure, action, friendship, and tragedy. Can you tell I was inspired? If you love Hunter x Hunter and you like this video, please check it out. It's free, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. Check the links below to access the manga today. Okay, sorry, I don't do sponsors because I sponsor myself, so I had to fit it in somewhere. Back to Hunter x Hunter. So, Hunter x Hunter is a shonen battle anime, and just because its story is arguably the most captivating of the bunch, does not by any means mean that it isn't also a balls to the motherfucking wall riot of action and violence. You gotta remember, this show looks new because of its 2011 remake, but at its heart, Hunter x Hunter is a 90s anime, and Lord, let me tell ya, they don't make them like they used to. However, even amongst other anime of its time, Hunter x Hunter's fight scenes always managed to maintain a particularly special level of wit. The fight scenes are illustrated with mindful choreography that prioritizes impact and strategy. Characters are actively shown to be thinking while they fight, positioning their foes into strategic disadvantages by leveraging their own creativity and capability. As a result of this cerebral approach to illustrating action, Hunter x Hunter excels at establishing its own rich lore of fighters and superpowered abilities, which in this anime are dubbed Nen abilities. Still to this day, I think Nen abilities are some of the absolute coolest and most well-established powers in all of anime. Nen powers are explained to the audience in the Battle Arena arc, where Gon and Killua learn that spiritual energy can manifest in individuals in a variety of broad ways. These powers are classified and given categories of their own, and the entire mechanic is established so effectively that the complex and at times confusing abilities never seem to clash with the story or provide narrative hiccups where I was confused or otherwise taken out of the story. The show demonstrates an excellent usage of the third-person narrator and direct exposition to inform the audience as to the important factors of any given ability. Normally, direct exposition is a big problem for anime. However, Hunter x Hunter does a fantastic job of making its audience curious about the abilities its characters have before it shows or tells them to the audience. We are so excited and intrigued to learn more that when it's just straight up explained to us, we don't feel a break in flow because we hungrily devour new lore that we're given. Quite simply, the pacing of the show is phenomenal and even subverts the age-old adage of show don't tell. But the best thing about nen powers isn't even their complex nature or their flashy and badass abilities, but rather the opposite. The best thing about nen powers is that they're well defined. We are shown their abilities, we are shown their defined and prominent weaknesses, and at times their extensive and harsh requirements. Take, for example, one of the show's most magnificent villains, Crollo Lucifer. His power is simple on the surface. He can steal someone's nen ability and use it for himself. Obviously, this is fucking awesome, incredibly powerful, and unspeakably useful. But it's not just like this nen ability is all-powerful or even easy to use. There are rules to his power, as there are to every single nen ability in the series. For example, Crollo's nen ability, Bandit Secret, allows him to steal abilities as we've just established. However, it isn't as easy as looking at someone and making a hand sign. Instead, he has to accomplish a series of tasks all within an hour of time. First, he has to see the nen ability with his own eyes. Then, he must ask the nen user a question about their nen ability and have it answered. And finally, he must have the nen user touch the crest of his Bandit Secret journal. If all of these actions are performed within an hour of time, then he can successfully steal their nen ability. From that point forward, as long as he's holding his book in one hand, his other hand is free to utilize any of the dozens of powers he's stolen, making him a foe on level with even such established characters as Silva Zoldyck himself. And I know this because we get to see them fight each other, and it's just so fucking cool. Oh my god, you gotta see this anime if you haven't. But I digress again. It's also worth note that Crollo can only use his stolen nen abilities if the person he's stolen them from is still alive, meaning he can't just brute force his way through each of his problems, and he actually has a heavy incentive to keep the original nen user alive and in good health. Now, I know, I just threw a lot at you guys, but in my opinion, this is the true brilliance behind nen abilities, and their usage in the show. They are powerful abilities with clearly defined rules and limitations, and because of this, seeing them in action becomes all the more interesting as battles become less about who is arbitrarily stronger, and instead about who is stronger, smarter, more crafty, and cunning. Characters have dynamic strategies that emphasize their own specialized abilities and personalities. They conquer their foes through practical and skillful applications of their own abilities as much as, if not more so than they do through their own individual strength or willpower. This is shonen battle anime at its best, and it's frankly shocking to me that Hunter x Hunter came out years before so much of its contemporary competition when you consider that it's still to this day the best of its class. Look, I could definitely go on and on and on about this show. Its own distinct animation style in both its original run and its re-release are topics that I could go on and on about for hours alone. However, I think you honestly get the point of what I'm trying to say here. Hunter x Hunter is one of my top 5 anime of all time. Its biggest and worst feature is just the fact that it isn't finished. Yoshihiro Togashi is sadly a product of his time, having poured so much of himself into his art and stories that there is little left. He is still working hard to publish more to this day, but at this point, I just want him to know that we all appreciate what he's done for us. He's a true legend, a man whom I really do look up to and admire. It is sad that we may never see a conclusive end to Hunter x Hunter, but I can't say this fact will ever stop me from recommending it to friends or praising it without end. This story is a monument to human creativity, a Goliath of fiction. Quite simply, there's a reason this anime is held in such high regard. There's a reason it touches us deep in a part of our souls that few other works can ever hope to. And the simple answer as to why is, well, Hunter x Hunter is just so damn good. Thanks for watching. You guys rock. I just ask that you please like, comment, subscribe if you liked the video, but most importantly, check out my comics. If you haven't before, or you have and you just want to see what's new, it really means a lot to me. These comics, they're my future. They're the thing that I want to do with my life for the rest of my life. And any notes, thoughts, anything you guys have to say about them, good or bad, I just appreciate it to no end. I hope you guys liked the video. Follow for more, subscribe for more, you know the drill. I'm just glad we could all share in something that we love together. Alright, so good, out.